So today I'm going to reveal to you my TV setup, which I've been changing over the last couple of months. And if like me, there's a good chance you're probably spending more time at home right now, so this video might be of interest to you. Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and welcome back to not just another video, but one of the most requested videos that I'm asked for. So if you follow me on Instagram already, you may have seen at some point photos of this setup. It's where I spend most of my evenings, usually gaming and watching movies. So I'm going to cover everything, from the TV to the games consoles, the cabinet and my shelving. I'm going to show you where I got each item from, how much it cost. I'm going to put the links to every item in the description as well, along with timestamps, so if you want to jump to a certain section you can. And as always, if you have any questions at all, please drop them in the comments below and I will get back to you. So the focal point of any setup is the TV, and I'm using the LG C9 55-inch OLED, and this TV is incredible. So the picture quality on anything 4K or even HD is stunning. Now I watch a lot of movies and Netflix during my evenings, and movies look so good on this. Whether I'm watching an animated film or an action movie, the quality and the clarity just blows me away every time. It really makes watching TV enjoyable. So I also use this TV for gaming, and it's actually where I play 99% of the time, even though I have a desk setup as well. So once you've enabled game mode, and you've disabled all of the unnecessary settings, the response time and lag input on this TV is incredible. It'll obviously never compare to a monitor, but for a 55-inch TV, it's really good. Switch HDR mode on, and this thing looks stunning for any single player game as well. So you can pick up the C9 for as little as £1,200 now too, which honestly is an absolute bargain. And as you can see, I've wall mounted it as well. And what's awesome about this mount is it swivels, so it means that I can move the TV left and right and pull it out from the wall itself. So if I need to get behind it to say swap a cable, I can do that very easily. The mount that I've opted for cost me £20 off Amazon. It's still for sale now, even though I bought it 6 years ago, and it's actually held 3 different TVs with no issues at all. So what has been seen cannot be unseen, and as you can see behind the TV it's littered with cables. I've got power leads, network cables, HDMIs, and you may have noticed though that there are no cables at all leading to the cabinet from the TV, and that's because I've actually hidden them in the wall. So what I've done is I've actually put a plastic tube inside the wall which feeds the cables from the TV to the cabinet. This means that I can swap HDMIs out or other cables if needed in the future. Then I've added a nice cable entry faceplate to tidy it up, and these only cost about £5 each. And something you may have noticed is on the back of the TV I've got ambient lighting. So on the back of the TV I've installed LIFX Z-strip. Now these are Wi-Fi controlled LEDs that you don't need a hub, and they are really easy to install too. So I have them actually covering the entire edge of my TV. Now what I like about these is that you can have any colour combination you'd like. You don't need to just have one solid colour, you could have a theme or a rainbow effect. I often have them on white for a nice clean fresh look, but then on an evening I'll change them to a colourful theme with a retro vibe. Now these start at £80 for a starter kit, or for the 5 meters that I have it would cost you around £145. Now one thing I would like to be improved is the ability to go around corners, as you can't really fold them or twist them to bend them around the TV. So as you can see on the corners they kind of lift off the TV, which looks untidy, but obviously once you've installed them and you've pushed your TV back you wouldn't know that they were there. So I was very lucky to be able to pick up the limited edition 500mm PS4 on launch day a couple of years ago. Now this thing is stunning. It's got a blue transparent case with gold details too, and it's a pro console with a 2TB hard drive. I don't actually use any external storage either. And also considering that you can see inside, it doesn't actually get that dusty. So I opted to wall mount it using Hide It mounts, which is a steel bracket that you attach to your wall and you just slide the console in. And the advantage to having it wall mounted is that there's less chance of it overheating too, so the airflow is far better than it being sat anywhere else on my setup. It'll also never get knocked or scratched here. And as I rarely buy discs, as I buy most of my games digitally, I don't put a disc in that often, literally a few times a year, and when I do, I just need to lean over the TV and pop the disc in. I don't need to physically move the TV each time. Now these mounts are only about £25 each and are really safe. I wouldn't be using it if I wasn't confident. Again, there is a link in the description. So onto the cabinet itself, which I'm often asked, where did you buy it from? So I wanted a unit that would fit the alcove and be able to host all of the gear inside that I needed. So I sketched out what I wanted with measurements and started looking for a local joiner to build me exactly what I wanted. And within a couple of days I had the perfect unit. So the cabinet is actually made from MDF with a pine fascia, and it measures 150cm by 50 by 65, and the thickness is 3.5cm. It actually cost me £550, which, considering how much a typical high street TV unit would cost, I don't think was too bad. So on the shelf here I have a couple of items on display. I've got a PlayStation Icons light, which is around £20. It's a battery powered light and it has a few different modes on there as well, such as being able to react to noise and music as well. It's something I like to display to represent my love for gaming. I've also got my childhood N64 console here as well, complete with GoldenEye. I don't play as much as I'd like to, but it is all wired up and it's there for when I need it. So inside the cabinet, to where I hide everything, all of those wires and distracting flashing lights, as you can see, my cabinet is packed with items that you'd not normally see. We've got consoles, controllers, games, my amp and network and stuff as well. So first up, my physical games collection, which you'll notice is pretty small. And that's because I buy 99% of my games digitally. It's quite rare that I'll buy a physical game, and when I do, it lives in the console for months at a time. One of the consoles that I use is the Nintendo Switch. Now this is the original one, which means that I can dock it and use it on my TV too. It's an awesome little console. So I've got a couple of carry cases that I either use to store the console in, or my games as well. So the actual cartridges for the Switch, I don't keep them in the cases, I actually keep them in these carry cases instead. So these are from a company called Satisfy, which originally launched on Kickstarter. They are hard cases as well, and there's got a nice fabric texture to it as well, and they're about £20 each. I've also got the Satisfy grip here, which makes holding the Switch that little bit easier while you're gaming. It's a lot more comfortable. These are a must-have if you game in handheld mode, and again these cost about £20, but they are cheaper if you bundle them together with a case. So in the cabinet I've got a few items that are hardwired into my network as well, reducing that chance of lag or buffering while I stream. So I live in a rural area and my super fast broadband here is maxed out at 35 meg. I can't take any chances. I'm using a TP-Link 5-port gigabit switch, and this allows me to share one cable from my router in the hallway to the devices here, including the AV receiver, my Philips Hue and my Hive and various other things as well. Now these switches are about £20 each, and I've got one in the cabinet, and I've actually got one behind the TV as well, which I use for both the TV network and the PlayStation. So although I'm slowly moving my lights over to LIFX, I still have a dozen or so Philips Hue bulbs around my house, including the light strip behind my desk setup. And if you use Philips Hue, you have to have this hub, which kind of acts as the brain to control their lights. These cost about £40 each, but usually come as part of a starter kit. Now this little box here is for my Hive setup, which is used to control my heating and hot water. It allows me to monitor, schedule, turn on or off my heating from any device or Google speaker, and these are around £150 including installation. And onto the amp or AV receiver, which is what powers my sound. So I'm using the Onkyo 686 receiver, which I actually only replaced last year after having the Onkyo 576 for nearly 10 years. It's a 7.2 channel amp with Dolby Atmos, Apple AirPlay and Chromecast built in. This means I can group the amp with my Google Home speakers, and when I play, say, my Spotify playlist, it'll play on all of my speakers including this amp. Although it's tucked away in this cabinet all day, and honestly I never open it for airflow, it never gets hot. I don't have any concerns it'll overheat either. This receiver can now be bought for around £600. So I'm using the receiver in 5.1 mode, even though it's capable of 7.2. And this is used to power my monitor audio bronze range. Now these speakers are stunning. Not only do they look good, they sound incredible too. No matter what I throw at it, it always sounds really clear and really punchy. Whether I'm watching a movie or playing some single player games on the PlayStation or just music, they always sound great. Now these speakers cost about £225 for the front pair, £120 for the centre, and £170 for the rear pairs. So about £515 plus the sub and the AV receiver. A question that I get asked a lot is, where is your left speaker? Well, it is to the left, believe it or not. It's not the perfect location, and considering that I designed the cabinet myself, you might have thought that I'd design it to include all 3 speakers. But I actually wanted the speakers to fill the room more, rather than being at one side. So once you're sat on the sofa and the speakers are set up and calibrated properly, the sound just works perfectly. I honestly have no complaints at all. Now, I mentioned earlier that I have an N64 on display too, and this is the console that I actually had as a child. I've got a selection of games still, including GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, 1080 Snowboarding, F-Zero X, just to name a few. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a full review of my N64 collection too. What consoles do you play? Are there any other gamers watching this now? Now, another piece of furniture that I love in this room is my shelving unit. It's made from solid wood and has a metal frame in black. It's pretty big too. It measures 135 centimeters by 185. It adds a nice rustic feel to the room. It's also somewhere that I can display my controllers, my prints and other accessories. I actually bought this back in 2018 from Next, the retail company, and it cost me £500. I'm not sure they make it anymore though. So I do display a few things on my shelves, which is always difficult to find a balance between looking cluttered and stylish, but let's see what you think. I've got my DualShock controllers. Now I've only got 4 of these, but 2 of them are made up of my 20th anniversary edition and the berry blue. Definitely 2 of my favourite controllers. Now I've got them sat in 2 different charging docks as well. So I've got the official PlayStation charging dock and I've got the HyperX charging dock. They both work great, they both do the same job, but what I like about the HyperX is it has a nice LED on the front so you can see if your controller's charged or at what state of charge it is at. Each of these docks cost around £20 each. I've also got this awesome wooden stand that I display one of my controllers in at all times, usually the 20th anniversary one. This was from a company called Geek Made Designs, and they make a lot of wooden stands for literally every controller you can think of. And this stand costs about £45, but it looks incredible and it's definitely worth it. I've also got my headsets ready to go at all times. So I've got the Astro A50s that I use for every multiplayer game. They're wireless, they work on the PS4 and the PC if needed. They sound incredible too, the full Dolby surround sound. Then I've also got the A10s, the Astro A10s, and I use these as a backup for when I forget to charge my A50s, which is pretty rare, but at least I've got them to hand. So the A50s are around £250 and the A10s are around £50 each. So around my home, I'm actually using Google Assistant to control my speakers, my lights, my plugs, my heating and so on. I actually only recently changed the speaker in this room to the Harman Kardon 1. I opted for this over the Sonos range as I actually preferred the soft fabric style, as well as it integrates seamlessly with the Google Home app, including grouping, which unfortunately Sonos don't do. But the sound on this little speaker is incredible. I've already bought another one for my kitchen to replace another Google speaker that I have. Now these only cost £180 each, and if you're looking or you're already using Google Assistant, I highly recommend picking one of these up. Again, I will link this in the description below. So on to a few of the other items or accessories that I have around the room. I've got a Zavvi print here, which is called the Apollo Launch. It's totally different to anything else that I have around my house, but I really like it. I like the vibrant colour. These cost about £40 plus the frame. I've got an IKEA floor lamp as well, which is pretty popular on Instagram right now, and these cost £45 and it's called the Hector. I've got a LIFX bulb in here too, so again, when I create my themes or on an evening, I can change the light colour to any colour that I'd like. And this grey chair, which I absolutely love, is called the Sherlock, and it's from Next. It's from Next Retail. It's really, really comfy, and it's the perfect spot for sitting and playing on the Switch or just listening to music. This was £550, and that included the customization of the different fabric colour and the buttons as well. I've also got this really nice cable knitted footstool too. I used to have a bright yellow one. I don't know if you remember, if you followed me on Instagram, you probably noticed that I used to have a bright yellow one in the room in all of my photos. But naturally, I changed it to grey over the last year, and these are about £30 as well. I was asked a lot on my last setup video what colour my walls were. Well, you've probably guessed this already, but I have a thing for grey in my house. So the wall behind the TV here is actually the same colour as my desk setup wall too, and it's painted in a colour called Dulux Chic Shadow, and again I will pop a link in the description below. So finally, the overall look of my setup, and I'll be honest, I love it. My aim was to have a TV setup that is not only aesthetically pleasing and space saving, but somewhere that I could chill, game and watch movies as well. So what are my future plans? Well, I'd like to upgrade my sub at some point in the future. The one that I have is nothing special, hence the reason that I've not really shown it in this video. Maybe I'll get the monitor audio sub to complete the setup. And also, assuming that the PS5 isn't delayed this year with the current situation, I'll need to decide if I will or can wall mount it behind the TV. So I might end up putting it on the shelf under the TV in replacement of the Icon's Lite or the N64, but we'll see. Well, that kind of wraps up my TV and living room setup. What did you think? Is there anything that you would change or add to my setup? And if you're building your setup right now, I hope that I gave you a few new ideas or answered some questions for you. If you do have any more questions at all, please do drop them in the comments below. Well, as always, thanks for watching, and I hope this video was useful to you. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and follow me on Instagram. Until next time.
This is where I wanna be, nah, nah, nah. Never ever gonna